You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live at 4. Good to have you with us at midweek, and it's feeling like summertime.
I know, a little taste of it. So it's on the horizon, everyone.
Yes.
Let's get a look at our first warn forecast. Jacob Montesano is out on our patio here in Madison enjoying all that sunshine. Jacob?
Yeah, right now it is very nice out here, right near 80 degrees for Madison. Most of the area in the lower 80s, a few places still hanging on to the upper 70s, but overall it has been very nice across southern Wisconsin, and we've seen a lot of sunshine. There have been a few isolated showers and some pop-up storms, and looking at the current radar, there is some of that off to the north in the central portion of Wisconsin, but for the most part, a lot of the area has been dry. Taking a look at the forecast for the rest of the evening, we still could see some of these pop-up showers and isolated storms, but if it does rain, it should be pretty brief. Might get a little bit heavy at times, though, but we're also not expecting any severe weather with these possible storms today. And then overnight, we'll see some of that fog roll back into the area, especially for Madison and areas to the east. And then in the morning, we'll see a round of some showers and storms, but this is not the round that is expected to be severe. That will be later in the day. However, until then, this evening looking pretty good. Again, don't be surprised if you see a pop-up shower or storm, but 70s to upper 60s, it's going to be very nice, and overnight lows will be mild in the lower 60s. But then we are going to focus on the alert day tomorrow. All severe weather hazards are possible. This is mainly for the afternoon and evening. I'll take you through the timing of it coming up a little bit later.
Thank you. The Verona-based company Epic is facing accusations of trying to destroy another healthcare tech company. Minnesota's Cure IS Healthcare filed a lawsuit Monday in the Northern District of California. It alleges that Epic violated the Federal Defend Trade Secrets Act, broke California state laws, and made false statements about Cure IS's products. Cure IS says Epic used its control of the electronic health record software MyChart to influence how healthcare providers interact with competitors. We received a statement on the lawsuit from Epic that reads in part, quote, "We are aware of the complaint filed by Cure IS, and we look forward to setting the record straight in court."
Tomorrow, the Milwaukee judge accused of helping an undocumented man evade ICE agents last month will be in court. Yesterday, a grand jury indicted Judge Hannah Dugan on charges of obstruction and concealing an individual from arrest. Court documents allege Dugan escorted an undocumented man and his attorney out of her courtroom through a back jury door after learning ICE agents were in the courthouse seeking his arrest. Agents ultimately captured the man. Dugan's attorney has filed a motion to dismiss the case. If convicted, Dugan faces up to 6 years in prison.
Taking a live look at the U.S. Capitol, where GOP lawmakers are trying to approve a bill to enact the president's sweeping agenda. This morning, the House's Tax Committee voted to make the president's 2017 tax cuts permanent. It's just one part of the president's bill of tax breaks and spending cuts that House Speaker Mike Johnson once approved by Memorial Day.
Here are the key elements of that legislation. If approved, it would extend the tax breaks from the president's first term. The biggest benefactors of those cuts were corporations and wealthy Americans. The bill also provides a deduction for workers in the service industry and other jobs that traditionally rely on tips. And a centerpiece of the package, more than $900 billion in spending cuts, mostly through the Medicaid program. There would be new work requirements for able-bodied adults on Medicaid without dependents.
The president, meanwhile, is making deals at every stop along his tour of the Middle East. The president lifted long-standing economic sanctions against Syria ahead of his meeting with the country's new leader, an insurgent who rose to power after overthrowing the Assad regime. In his stop in Qatar included meeting with Boeing's CEO, where they finalized a deal for the country to buy U.S.-made jets. The president deflected questions about lifting sanctions on Iran, but says he would like to strike a deal with that country.
For that to happen, it must stop sponsoring terror, halt its bloody proxy wars, and permanently and verifiably cease its pursuit of nuclear weapons. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
The president is scheduled to continue his tour of the Middle East tomorrow, but he did not rule out diverting to Turkey, where talks between Russia and Ukraine are set to get underway if Russian President Vladimir Putin is also there. The Kremlin has yet to say whether Putin plans to attend those talks.
New information shows drug overdose deaths are way down in the U.S. CDC data found last year 30,000 fewer people died from overdosing than in 2023. That's a 27% drop. The 80,000 plus overdose deaths last year is the lowest level in 5 years. Opioids, primarily fentanyl, continue to be involved in most of the deaths. Later on Live at 4, Jalen Banks will tell us whether Wisconsin's overdose death rate is down as well. Well, there may be fewer students on the UW-Madison campus after this weekend's graduation, but the housing strain on the city continues to be a problem.
And that brought a group of state leaders here to Madison, as political reporter Will Keneally explains.
A healthy vacancy rate in a city is considered somewhere between 5 and 7%, and Madison has been nowhere near that in recent years. That drives up rent, except for places like the Ella on East Wash that use tax credits to provide low-rent options.
Yeah, just walk 5.
The secretary for the state agency that sets things like building codes toured the apartment complex as part of Affordable Housing Week.
How can we make this process easier and more affordable? Because if we can start to save a little bit here, a little bit there, we can ultimately build more housing, which has many downstream benefits for communities.
He says that agency, the Department of Safety and Professional Services, says the state is looking to update building codes to support that housing growth. Reporting on Madison's east side, Will Keneally, News 3 Now.
Well, thank you. A quick heads up for sports fans out there. News 3 Now will have a special NFL schedule release show tonight. We'll be streaming it at 8 p.m. You can watch it on Channel 3000 Plus. Our hosts, sports director Zach Hanley and Packers contributor Jason Wilde. They'll break down the full schedule. You can watch on any connected TV, including Roku, Amazon Fire, or with the free Channel 3000 mobile app.
Well, next on Live at 4, the state Senate considers a school cell phone ban.
What researchers say about whether it will make a difference when we come back.
Portions of Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia are underwater after flash floods sparked by heavy rain. I'll take a look at the devastation in western Maryland, where more than 4 inches of rain fell in 24 hours. Homes, businesses, and schools were ordered to evacuate. Search crews rescued 200 people trapped in an elementary school. To the north, Myersdale, Pennsylvania, took a beating with floods inundating homes and submerging cars.
As of right now, nearly 37,000 acres of land are burned in northern Minnesota. Crews there have been battling 3 big wildfires since Sunday. The Jenkins Creek fire northwest of Duluth grew from 6,800 acres Tuesday to more than 20,000 this morning. Meanwhile, the Camp House fire grew nearly 15,000 acres and has destroyed dozens of buildings. And the Three Lakes Munger Shaw fire has spread to 1,700 acres. Minnesota's DNR is investigating suspects accused of starting the Camp House fire. Investigations on all 3 fires are ongoing.
And we've had some dry conditions here in Wisconsin, and it is a hot day out there. Here's meteorologist Jacob Montesano. Jacob?
Yeah, and we're also going to be dealing with our own hazardous weather in the form of severe weather tomorrow afternoon, where we have an alert day in the forecast. All severe weather hazards are possible, mainly for the afternoon and evening hours. Taking a look at the severe weather outlook, enhanced risk for much of the area, especially from Madison and areas to the north and east. Slight to marginal risk in southwestern Wisconsin, and I'll explain why it's not as strong for the southwestern portion of the state in just a moment. But first, here's a look at the most likely hazards. It looks like large hail will be the most likely. Strong winds and even a few isolated tornadoes are possible. Not too concerned about the flooding risk, considering we haven't really seen rain over the last week and a half. So here's a look at future track. For the rest of this evening, could still see a few pop-up showers and isolated storms, but we're going to be mostly dry for the rest of today and tonight. But we are going to see some clouds roll in and some fog as well for Madison and areas to the northeast by the morning. Then looking off to the west, now this first round of storms is not expected to produce severe weather. Definitely could, but especially for areas north and northwest of Madison, you folks could see a brief round of some thunderstorms early in the day, but the bigger concern will come in the afternoon, where we see some of these showers and thunderstorms begin forming right around the southwestern portion of Wisconsin. And that is why that areas further southwest are under a slight risk versus an enhanced risk, because it's very possible that those of you in Platteville, Prairie du Chien, the storms form to the northeast of you, and then you don't see anything at all. But for Madison and areas to the northeast, severe weather looks very likely, as we'll see this line of thunderstorms continue to increase as it pushes across our area. So the further north and east you're located, the better chance you will see that severe weather. And the time frame of this will be around 2 to 5 p.m. depending on your location as it moves from west to east. And then it does look to clear out of our area by around 5 to 6 and then push off into Lake Michigan closer to sunset. We actually may see some sunshine before we see sunset here in southern Wisconsin. Now, outside of the storms, we're going to see pretty strong sustained winds, possibly gusting up to 35 miles per hour at times. Could even get stronger as those storms roll through in southwestern Wisconsin. And that's going to continue on Friday, where we'll see gusts continue to be pretty strong. And once they shift out of the northwest, which will be later in the day Friday and into Saturday, that's going to cause some much cooler temperatures. And as we take a look at the full 7 to 10 day forecast, you can see highs will be in the 60s for the weekend, and 60s, possibly upper 50s are expected for much of next week.
Thank you, Jacob. A bill that would ban cell phones in classes across Wisconsin is making its way through the state assembly.
But most schools already have some kind of restrictions in place, and a new report from the Wisconsin Policy Forum finds enforcing those rules isn't easy. We spoke with one of the report's authors, Mark Sommerhauser, about why that is.
Well, Mark, thanks for joining us today. And I wanted to know, what is the current state of cell phone restrictions policies across Wisconsin schools?
Yeah, so currently Wisconsin really has a patchwork of cell phone policies that are really dictated in most cases at the school district level, decided and put in place at the school district level. In some districts, it's even at the individual school level. But with most districts, there is a district-wide policy in place. Just to give folks kind of a sense of what the range of options are, it goes from kind of the most restrictive. So some districts have basically completely banned students from using phones essentially anywhere on school premises during the school day. Then we go to the sort of middle ground that it seems like most districts have embraced, which is students can bring their phones to school and in many cases can possess them, but aren't permitted to use them during instructional time, and they're only permitted to use them in common areas such as hallways, locker areas, cafeterias, those kinds of areas of the school. That seems to be where most districts have landed. But then we have some other districts that have no district-wide restrictions on cell phone use, and once again might delegate that decision either to the individual school level or in some cases even to the individual teacher, where there might be a different rule in each classroom of a school.
This is a relatively new idea. So what are some of the difficulties that schools face when they're trying to implement these policies?
Yes, so I think the biggest one is a challenge that I think would be fairly intuitive to most of your viewers, which is that you can kind of put all the restrictions that you would like to put in place on cell phone use, but if that cell phone is in a student's pocket or purse or backpack, it can be really challenging for a teacher or an educator to try to enforce and police that at all times with 20, 25 kids in a classroom. So that is kind of what has prompted some districts that have adopted some kind of a restriction on cell phone use to also look at some sort of policy or some sort of restriction on when and where students can actually possess their phones. So we're seeing more districts now that are adopting measures such as students can bring their phone to school, but they have to either maybe put it in their locker during instructional time. Some are using these pouches where students have to put their cell phones in a pouch during the school day.
What are some of the other patterns that you found in certain schools compared to others when it comes to policy?
Yeah, it was really a little more random than we might have expected. Usually there are more patterns that we observe in the data. That said, we did find a few areas where there seemed to be some trends. Probably the strongest was that among smaller school districts. So we divided the school districts up according to enrollment. in our smallest sort of bucket, districts with 500 or fewer students, about 36% had complete bans on using cell phones anywhere on school grounds during the school day. And that's quite high. That's almost twice what the statewide share is. So that was kind of the main one. We did also find that districts or schools that had larger shares of enrollment among students of color also seemed to have a higher share of complete bans or more restrictive policies. So those were kind of some of the main things that we tease out in our report.
Do you think pending legislation regarding this will have any effect?
I think that's possible. You know, the legislation that's currently before the state Senate would essentially put in place a statewide policy that's very similar to what about 70% of the districts already have, which is students would be barred from using cell phones during instructional time. They would still be able to possess the phones and use them in common areas. Schools, if they chose, could still go beyond that and impose more restrictive policies at the school or at the district level if they wish. They would still have that authority. So there is, I think we found, roughly 10% of districts that currently have no restrictions. So certainly for that roughly 10th of districts, it would have an impact. But, as we've kind of already touched on, the usage restrictions are one thing, but a lot of where the rubber hits the road is in how do we enforce those restrictions on cell phone use.
Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us about this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Coming up on Live at 4, local officials are looking for new ideas regarding transportation.
Our Michelle Renee Quinn will tell us how you can help when we come back.
Well, right now you have the chance to help shape the future of transportation in Dane County.
News 3 Now's consumer reporter Michelle Renee Quinn shows us how.
I'm here at the Southwest Commuter Path, and we are talking about active transportation because that's what it's all about. The Greater Madison MPO wants your help in planning the Dane County Active Transportation Plan. Now, I'm here with one of the lead planners, Ben Lyman. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks.
Thanks for joining us. And what can you tell us about the Active Transportation Plan? What exactly is it?
So it's a regional plan. We are working on updating what we have as a 2015 bicycle transportation plan that the Greater Madison MPO did. And that's obviously a little out of date now. It's 10 years ago. A lot of projects have been completed. And so we wanted to take a fresh look at what's going on with growth in our communities and what needed facilities and policy changes are needed. And then also, this will be our first plan that focuses on the pedestrian environment. So sidewalks and curb cuts and accessibility for people who are really moving around by their own means, whether they're in a wheelchair or a unicycle or an e-bike or a scooter. Anybody who's out using our trails, our paths, our roadway networks. We really want to hear from you to make sure that the system is taking account of your needs and your experiences.
What kind of questions can they expect on the survey?
We have a bunch of questions about how they use existing facilities, but then even more importantly, we're asking about barriers. We want to know what's stopping people from going out and walking more, from biking more. We're also really interested in new micromobility, the e-scooters and e-skateboards and one-wheels and things like that really didn't exist 10 years ago when we did our bicycle transportation plan. And then also the advent of e-bikes has really changed the sort of scope of how many people are biking and what different types of people are biking throughout the county, and the trip purposes that now folks who maybe weren't able to ride a bike very comfortably or for a very long distance 5 or 10 years ago can now commute daily on an e-bike, and it's no big deal and they really enjoy it.
Can you give me an example of maybe something that you might suggest on the survey?
One of the things we're also looking for, in addition to the survey, we have an online commenting map that has a link through the survey, also available on our website to go there directly. And there you can not only call out things that are barriers, but also things that are really great. I usually ride on Mifflin Street for my commute, but coming here today, I rode on the Capital City Trail and then Jennifer Street, and I had forgotten that there was one signal that I'd heard about that is just by default, it is set up for bicycles and pedestrians to have the green light, just a few blocks back. It's just out of view there. but it is always green for bikes and pedestrians. But then when it senses that a car has come up, it then changes the signal to let the car go through. That's a fantastic thing that we don't have very much of. And so that's something that I would like to point out as being a really great, just signal timing change. It doesn't have to mean that concrete or asphalt or anything like that is actually modified at all.
Once again, that survey, if you want to help out with Dane County's active transportation plan, you need to fill out that survey. If you live in Dane County, you walk, bike, roll, definitely check it out. It's available in English and Spanish and other languages as well with the number on your screen. Your deadline to fill it out is July 1st. You can also find a link on our website, channel3000.com.
Thank you, Michelle Renee, and to Ben as well.
Yeah, what a nice day for a bike ride. Well, coming up, deadly overdoses are down across the nation.
But is that true here in Wisconsin? Our Jalen Banks shows us the statistics when we come back.
You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
We are getting quite the taste of summer today. Perfect day to be near the lake or on the lake.
But all of our weather team for the past couple days have been tracking Alert Day Thursday storms. And we also want to give you a quick reminder, Lisa Briggs from the Bruce Company will join us later to take your plant questions. So go ahead and send them now to tips@channel3000.com. Jacob is out on the patio on this warm summer-like day and watching the weather for tomorrow.
Yeah, very nice right now, but those storms are coming. Now, the good news is that they're not going to be here until tomorrow, but we have an alert day in the forecast. All severe weather hazards are possible, mainly for the afternoon and the evening hours. We'll have live coverage of any warnings that do pop across our area. Now, like I mentioned, this is mostly going to be tomorrow. Right now, we are pretty dry. A few thunderstorms are popping up in the northern portion of our area. Not really producing, widespread rain, but there are a few pockets of heavier rainfall as well as a few lightning strikes, and this may occur for the southern portion of Wisconsin as well during the evening. Any storms and showers that do form, though, the rain should be pretty brief. For the most part, light, but we definitely could see some of those heavier pockets. And then once we get towards the later overnight hours, we'll dry up until tomorrow morning, where we could see a brief line of storms before the stronger storms later. So tonight's forecast will have lows near 60, so a pretty mild night. And as we look at the timing of everything tomorrow, it's mostly going to be during those afternoon hours, and it's also going to be very warm tomorrow. Highs will be in the middle 80s. So I'll track through the severe weather chances coming up a little bit later.
All right, thank you, Jacob. Well, the CDC released new data earlier today showing overdose deaths declined drastically nationwide in 2024.
News 3 Now's Jalen Banks spoke to Public Health Madison, Dane County about why we're seeing a decline in our state.
The Center for Disease Control and Prevention sharing Tuesday that nationwide overdose deaths declined 27%, with the Badger State seeing one of the largest declines in the country. Provisional data from the CDC shows the predicted cases of overdose deaths in Wisconsin declined by over 600 cases, which would result in a 36% decline, making it the third largest decline in the country.
There were a lot of efforts early on in Wisconsin, particularly. We were reaching out to people who were mainly smoking or snorting drugs. We were reaching out to people who weren't intending to use opioids. I think we identified some of the health inequities that we were seeing and really tried to put solutions in place.
For now, reporting in the newsroom, Jalen Banks, News 3 Now.
Jalen, thank you. Officials in Milwaukee say they cannot currently rule out whether the deadly Mother's Day fire there was set intentionally. That fire Sunday morning killed 5 people. The building did not have a working sprinkler system and wasn't required to because it was built before sprinkler systems were required by law. 6 people remain hospitalized as the investigation continues.
Another day of emotional witness testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex trafficking trial is over. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, took the stand again today, during which jurors saw a picture Ventura took of herself after Combs beat her in 2016 when she tried to leave a so-called freak-off. Ventura's testimony is key in the prosecution's case, which argues Combs ran a criminal enterprise in which he abused, controlled, and drugged victims to coerce them into sex. Combs has pleaded not guilty. Tomorrow, his attorneys will begin cross-examining Ventura.
FAA officials testified today before a Senate committee to talk about concerns about air safety, air traffic controller shortages, and outdated technology. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle want answers following a string of delays, cancellations, and technical issues at Newark Airport, including a complete radar outage for 90 seconds. The agency says it's working on a short-term fix that includes technical repairs and cutting flights to reduce congestion while dealing with a shortage of air traffic controllers.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is during those 90 seconds, was there a significantly heightened danger to the flying public?
I don't believe there was a heightened significant danger to the flying public. But with that being said, from where I sit, we want to remove all risk to the flying public.
The FAA came under scrutiny earlier this year after a deadly mid-air collision between a passenger jet and a military helicopter in Washington. McIntosh confirmed that a hotline connecting the Pentagon Air Traffic Control to FAA controllers has been offline for more than 3 years.
To Wall Street now, the Dow dropped 89 points, the Nasdaq is up 137, and the S&P 500 ended the day up 6.
Well, this summer, the city of Sun Prairie is making composting easier for people who live there.
It's part of the initiative to prioritize sustainability. News 3 Now's Tanisha Shaw talked with organizers about how the program will affect the city.
Gardens across Sun Prairie will have a new foundation by the end of 2026.
This is, really high quality finished compost.
Greenbox Compost and local gardens are partnering after the USDA gave the city of Sun Prairie $109,000 towards a compost program.
This is just the beginning. It's a small scale pilot for 150 people. We're not going to make a ton of compost, but what we do make is going to be really great. And hopefully this will be like a stepping stone to the next big thing.
This program will give his local business a big push.
So we already had about 40 members in Sun Prairie. And since the launch of this program or the announcement of this program, we've added another 20. And that's in the first 10 days, I think, of this program being announced.
Families have to sign up, and the program will last from this upcoming July until December 2026. Even if a household isn't signed up, 3 Sun Prairie schools and big city events will all focus on composting.
There is going to be a designated waste station where they can drop off their food scraps to be composted. We're going to have waste station volunteers to help attendees sort their waste. They might not know what should go in the compost bin versus what should go in the garbage. So we'll educate them on how to sort their waste.
Reporting in Sun Prairie, Tanisha Shaw, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Tanisha. To sign up for the program, Sun Prairie residents have to pay a monthly $10 fee.
Broadway's Clue is now playing at the Overture Center. The play is based on the fan favorite movie from 1985 and inspired by the classic Hasbro game. Madison is the second to last stop for the Clue cast, who will be returning to their families after more than a year on the road. But News 3 Now caught up with one lucky actor who that wasn't the case for.
My wife is one of the female offstage covers, so she knows 5 tracks in this show. And I don't know how she does it, but she is amazing. And it's just been a dream. It's super rare for something like that to happen.
Charter says he and his wife's young daughter has also been able to join them on the road. If you're interested in seeing Clue, you can still buy tickets. Just head to overture.org.
Well, a quick heads up for sports fans out there. News 3 Now will have a special NFL schedule release show tonight. Yes, we'll be streaming it at 8 p.m. You can watch on Channel 3000 Plus. Our host, sports director Zach Hanley, and our Packers contributor Jason Wilde will break down the full schedule. And you can watch on any connected TV, including Roku, Amazon Fire, or with the free Channel 3000 mobile app, and of course on our website.
And next on Live at 4, a special for gardening fans. Lisa Briggs is standing by live at the Bruce Company. There she is. She'll be taking your plant and garden questions when we come back.
And you can still email right now at tips@channel3000.com. Lisa is standing by and ready for you when we continue.
Well, we're taking your plant and garden questions today for Lisa Briggs.
You can still email your questions to tips@channel3000.com. And Lisa joins us live from the Bruce Company. She's not on her phone. That's how she can hear us.
Lisa, I love your hat. You look great.
It's a little blinged out today.
Looks very, very nice. Well, we can get started with one of our questions. Jean is wondering how to get rid of viburnum that hasn't been trimmed and all of its suckers without killing plants. She says that she wants to keep the ones that are in the same flower bed.
Well, actually, the suckers might be what she wants to keep. If the viburnum itself is really old and overgrown, those new suckers are what she had originally. We call this renewal pruning, where you take out some of the oldest branches, a few at a time every year. That encourages new growth from the base, and so you get new, younger growth, and it's sometimes a little more healthy.
Very good. Well, I do see another question about cucumbers. Kurt wants to know, they planted cucumbers that they bought at a nursery into the garden. They've wilted to the point they're almost dead. Is that shock or stress from transplanting? Do you have any advice?
I'm wondering if we knew when he planted them. Cucumbers are really susceptible to cold damage, and we did have some super cold nights last week. Wednesday and Thursday nights, we were still bringing stuff in and out of the greenhouse to protect it. So it might just be that if he had planted it outside midweek last week, it was just some cold damage.
Can we put the tomatoes in the ground yet, or is it still too soon, Lisa?
Well, we have reached the average frost-free date. That is the 15th, so that's tomorrow. I'm going to plant mine tomorrow. I would just have a plan and maybe have some floating row covers or a way to protect them if the nights go below 45.
We have another question. It says, I have 2 plants that are overtaking my flower gardens. Could you identify what these are and how to get rid of them? The person has tried digging. They're tall, bamboo-like plants. They tried digging them out, but she says they keep returning with a vengeance.
I would say that, I'm not seeing them, so have her email those photos to the plant desk. That's plantdesk@brucecompany.com. We'll take a look, and once we ID what she actually has, then we can go ahead and advise her on how to get rid of them.
I thought of another one. I remember some months ago we were talking about basil and planting that, getting it ready for the nice temps. Can we start transporting that out? And how do you have to do it gradually so it doesn't get shocked from the hot weather?
Not necessarily. You just want to remember that when it starts getting really hot, that sometimes plants are wilting from the heat, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they need more water. You're going to want to check the soil first. But this time of year, with nights in the low 50s and days, even if days go into the 80s, plants should be fine. Even we've been taking things in and out and leaving them out as of Saturday and Sunday with no ill effects to them.
All right. Lisa, I wish you could see the picture. It looks like a postcard. What a beautiful office you have.
It is really, really lovely. I'm pretty lucky.
Very good. Thank you so much, Lisa. We'll see you soon.
And thanks for your questions, everybody.
Yep.
Coming up on Live at 4, Jacob is tracking alert day conditions in our forecast.
Plus, when and where the Farm Aid concert will be held this year and who's headlining it.
Okay, where is everyone?
Yeah, where is everyone? That's a good question.
There, enjoying the beach. 79 degrees. If I were there, I'd be out there. Yeah.
It is warmer in Madison than in Daytona Beach, Florida today. How about that?
Yeah, we will keep it, but we are looking ahead to some alert days. Here's meteorologist Jacob Montesano. Jacob?
Yeah, we are going to be in an alert day tomorrow, especially for the afternoon and evening hours where we are expecting some severe weather. All severe weather hazards are possible, and this is going to be for all of southern Wisconsin. Now, as we take a look at the severe weather outlook, enhanced risk for Madison and areas to the north and east. Slight to marginal risk in southwestern Wisconsin, and the reason for that is because the storms look to form right around the southwestern portion of the state, so it's very possible, and the further southwest you're located, that you may miss out on the storms. But as those storms increase, they're going to push through our area from the southwest to the northeast. So the further northeast you're located, the more likely you will see the severe weather. Now, looking at the hazards, we're expecting hail does look to be the most likely, but we're expecting strong winds as well, even a few isolated tornadoes. Not too concerned about the flooding risk since we haven't really seen a lot of rain the last week and a half. So taking a look at future track, this is for this evening. A few pop-up showers and storms are possible, but if it does rain this evening, it should be pretty brief. By the time we get to the later overnight hours, it will be drier with some fog developing for Madison and areas to the east. Then in the morning, we'll see a round of some showers and thunderstorms. This first round not expected to be severe, although it still could be. It's just not expected to be at the level the afternoon storms will be. But this is going to push through our area, especially for areas north and northwest of Madison, kind of dissipating as it gets a little further to the northeast. And then we'll be dry for the late morning into the early afternoon. And here's where these pop-up showers and storms will begin forming, and then they'll be much more defined as we get later into the afternoon, as they will strengthen as they push to the north and east. So we're going to see this line move through our area roughly between 2 to 5 p.m., right around 3 to 4 for Dane County, around 4 to 5 for areas just to the east and north of that. By the time we get to around 5 to 6, a lot of it will be out of the area and off to the east, impacting Milwaukee, and then 5 to 6, it'll push off into Lake Michigan, and we actually will see some sunshine before the day is over after the storms. Now, after the storms, we also are going to see those temperatures cool down. Now, for Friday, it'll be windy and the winds will be out of the southwest, which will help keep the temperatures warm. But then they're going to shift and be out of the west-northwest Friday night into Saturday, and highs for the weekend only going to be in the 60s, possibly upper 50s as we get towards the middle of next week, as we are expecting another chance of rain. That chance of rain does not look like it will bring severe weather, but it will possibly bring some showers throughout the entire day, as it will be much cooler than what we're seeing right now and what we will see for tomorrow. So definitely stay tuned to News 3 Now during the Thursday afternoon to early evening time frame, as we'll have live coverage of any warnings that do pop up for us.
Well, some of the senior statesmen of rock, that's a nice way of putting it.
I like that, yes.
They're hitting the Twin Cities later this year.
Yeah, here's the thing. Willie Nelson, Neil Young, and John Mellencamp will perform at Huntington Bank Stadium at University of Minnesota. And they're also bringing along Dave Matthews, Margot Price, and a handful of other artists for their Farm Aid concert. This will be the first time in its 40-year history the show has ever been in Minneapolis. The trio started the fundraiser to help American farmers back in 1985. The Farm Aid show is scheduled for September 22nd. Tickets go on sale on Friday. I'd love to see Willie
I
live.
would too. Yeah, I would too. Very exciting for them. So get out this afternoon and enjoy this nice weather, but you'll want to pay attention to the forecast tomorrow.
Yeah, we are expecting that severe weather possibly in the afternoon to early evening. Like I mentioned a moment ago, definitely stay tuned to News 3 Now. During that time frame, we'll have live coverage of any warnings that do form, and we are going to see cooler temperatures after the storm, 60s for highs over the weekend and much of next week.
All right, Jacob, thank you. We'll be right back. Tomorrow on Live at 4, a Milwaukee judge will be in court facing accusations that she helped a man evade ICE agents. And straight ahead tonight at 5, the effect longer working hours can have on your brain. Thanks for watching Live at 4 today, everybody. Hope you enjoy the nice summer-like weather and hope you'll rejoin us right here tomorrow. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.